Yeah, 3 DYL. Good morning, Gwen. VK3 up.
Hey, VK3 VK3 DYL.
Yeah, okay, Gwen. Yeah, Mark. Oh, microphone. Sorry, Gwen, I picked up the wrong microphone. 3 DYL, VK3 up.
You're 5 and 9.
Ripper, Gwen. Okay, to Julie Lodge. Thank you, VK3 up.
VK3 DYL, please.
Wrong microphone. I thought I'm 5'5". Yeah, the road's off.
Neville! It's in, they're sitting on the bar bender. Right.
Wow. The man would operate the computer. Fred, the telecom background, yeah?
Good morning, my name is John McGee. I was speaking with Peter Dawson a couple of weeks ago. We're letting a balloon off from one turnover area. And unfortunately, Peter's been cut out feed exercise this week. And he was going to try to arrange that perhaps a series of wind direction and speed for this morning from the balloon. And if that's not possible, no, just only one speed. What we're trying to do is to calculate the time. So it's one of your well events.
Cape Canaveral puts them off on those like this, mate. We're down there, but
Except Bill is quite regularly great.
They used to use the netting railways manually. Right along the edge. I've never seen this. You do use it.
That's all you get. The little lot would be 45 kilometres in the northeasterly direction. That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
What about him? Ryan? I haven't seen him. But he did say he was coming, so... Can someone see if it's actually cocaine before you let it go? Is it working? Oh yes, yes.
Go away. You want a pen? Come over here,
Anyone got a dart?
No, nothing else. Get back! Get back!
Something to do this in theory.
No.
Probably a big bit of lead down the road. Yeah, you don't need that. Zero option.
Maybe there's too many electrons in the battery.
Yeah.
It did go near the Fox, don't it?
They should put flight batteries.
Yeah. Good.
Number 2 coming up.
Keep making a bit of temperature from that.
Can you believe this?
Paul, I knew you never grew up. Paul, I knew you never grew up.
No.
That's pregnant, all right. Pretty tight in there now.
We'll eventually do it.
I'll let a bit out this side. I've got a pin.
We'll have to have a bit of free slack between the balloons to allow for expansion.
Run me.
Did you really bring your boat? Between the
The boat. That's what we said. We'll drop it.
Expansion is
Start up the road.
No, not free lift in the...
Water set.
It's going to be a problem for you. If one bursts, no. Can we boil balloons off you?
You think it'll come back again?
I think it just there. That big bit of
How are you going to tie it? You're going to tie it around the rim of the other one? Or?
Yeah, just a line up in the top.
Yeah.
I don't know, this is the first.
This is what experimenting is all about. Where's your brother?
How are you?
Get on them, your eyes open now.
Yes, just starting to get out. It's just fading.
What is that a sliding cone on that, or is it going to be a step cone? Is it saying that's right?
It's a sliding cone. It's up here, listen.
What were you, Foxhole guys?
Hopefully they'll return this transmitter.
There.
This is the rotator that goes on the top of the car.
There.
You can sit inside the car and operate the...
Located by them. That's a little jazzy idea.
big, goes on the mast.
And then kind of sits on top of it.
5 element thing.
5 element.
Five element. Most people only use 3, but this 5 element tends to give us good result in hand culture.
See?
Going to give that another run today.
What's you guys working on you? What's your call sign, boys?
CK3 CRB.
What's yours?
CRB.
CRB, what's yours?
And 3K3JBR. Juliet Bravo Romeo.
Right.
Got a audio oscillator in it. There's a signal strength vary, so there's the frequency of the audio. A couple of people transmitting on their handhelds at the moment during the hearing, so waving it around in the air. It's too many people transmitting on handhelds at the moment. Before when I was waving it around through the air, before when I was waving it around throughout the air, we were able to detect the position of the balloon even though it was within the clouds. And it was straight up that way.
Just straight up.
Well, straight up.
So it hasn't moved miles away.
Not yet. It was only just after the been launched.
Right, still going straight up. That's interesting to know. There's no rush, no panic to go charging at the other side of town to grab it.
Got an hour flight at least.
That's a bit interesting, look at that. This someone's going over and they're going straight. Look at he's putting it. Yes. Let's get them up.
Whether you're interested in signal response or bearings, we are currently mobile.
Oh, what's going on?
When it's forward, and if you can stand by now and make an estimate of the height of the event. Pleasure, thank you.
Yeah, you're recording. Yeah, maybe you Zoom.
Yeah,
That's it. Take us forward, give you an idea. Now to shut it off, press the red button.
Any idea as far as signal? Our estimate of about 1,200 to 1,500 there was pretty close, so I didn't think it'd be very thick. Thanks for that, but it's a bit of useless information, but we were very curious about it. Well, if you can be anywhere near sure of your rate of ascent, it'd be interesting to plot the temperatures that went through anyway. In Moorabbin, we're giving a cloud base of about 1,000, and you wouldn't have been all different there anyway, so as you say, all the more information you can get. Useless as it may be, perhaps VK3 or VK3 I think. You're right. Somewhere between Panton Hill and Yarra Glen is its actual location at the moment. So that's probably corresponding to your heading. Go ahead. Thank you, VK3 1. The estimated temperature up there too is minus 49 degrees.
Thank you very much, Ray. We'll log that. VK3 Echo Radio standing by. VK3 Bravo Victor Juliet. VK3 go ahead.
Good morning, man. I'm in Mornington. I received the signal 424 and to 4260. And it started off at strength about 1, it's now about strength 3 in Mornington, VK3 BVJ.
VK3 BVJ, VK3, thank you very much for that. We'll log that at strength 3 at the moment. VK3 Echo Radio standing by. What's the name, please?
It's West High Aircraft. Tuned to decimal 253.7. I'll record some of that.
Roger, Doug. Thank you for that. VK3 BGH, I've forgotten the name. I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you for that.
In the direction we plotted, we got no idea of height, of course. Graham will give us that in a few minutes when he falls back in with the radar fix. But I'd say it's probably up around the 20,000 mark by now.
Yeah.
And it should be about 30k or 40k away.
Sure.
Somewhere around about there.
I got the strongest signal strength over Vulcan. Passing Vulcan, I got the strongest signal strength about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, could have just launched.
Drift of the crystal, I told you. Well, what more do you want to know? Technical explanation. Crystal came courtesy of Bright Star Crystals. Yes. For the purposes of the commercial. The radio songs came from Philips Communications. The balloons came from the Weather Bureau. And the batteries from Marketing Sales Australia. No, from Powerhouse. He's changed his name. Powerhouse Electronics. The transmitter was built and constructed by Harry VK3 KBA.
The driver board for the actual transmitter was built and constructed by Bob Duckworth many years ago. He used it as a driver and it was 2 meter.
It was modified by KBA.
It was modified by KBA to operate on this frequency.
The balloon launcher came courtesy of the Environmental Protection Authority, and their operator and their string and.
Yes,
and the gas came courtesy of the Moorabbin and District Radio Club.
I think that's about all.
And the rest of it was hard work by many members and the suffering of their wives. And we're just sorry about the weather, folks. Thank you.
And the ulcers.
On the launch site, it's travelling at a bearing of 20 degrees. I make it a bearing of exactly 20 degrees from the launch site. So I hope that coincides. Okay, I'll go back inside.
Here it is now, it's going right over King Lake there.
Right over King Lake. Right, a correction on the direction of the flight to YQN. Somewhere over the King Lake area, and it's travelling almost in a straight line. So in the King Lake area is looking more satisfactory at the moment. This is VK3ER.
I missed it, unfortunately. He's giving us good reports, is it?
Yeah, right, Joe. It's headed at 20 degrees from the launch site at this moment and holding fairly steady. Don's just done a plot over and it's headed towards King Lake District.
20 degrees from the launch site or 20 degrees from Tourmaline?
He said from the launch site.
It's almost due north.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Well, about 20 degrees.
Yeah, about 20.
About 20 degrees off north, Joe.
20 degrees to the right of North, Joe.
Yeah, plus or minus 1 way. Okay, that takes the indication on the lower winds, Joe, so they could have been slightly different. It was only the wind at 35, so it's interesting. 200 degrees was where the wind was supposed to be coming from, which we would have thought would have put it a little bit further east, but at the moment it is following that 20 degree track, exactly 20 from the line side.
Yeah, well, 20.
Yeah, fine, Graham. Sorry, what was that about the wind at 35?
That was
Wind at 35 is supposed to be coming from 200 degrees. That was the latest info we had here.
Right.
So wind from 200
that's 20
seems
degrees.
to coincide fairly well. So it'll just be interesting to see how it develops. Okay, just to report anybody who's listening, the one from the Laverton was lost at 208 degrees at 45 kilometres.
282.
It was a balloon push this morning. That was at 9 o'clock this morning. We put ours to about 2.25 hours after that. But
won't be the dull, boring event that perhaps it's been in the past. We'll try and keep it moving along at a reasonably rapid rate because not only do we have the AGM, we have some discussion to follow on as a result of the balloon project that we ran a little while ago, and also an opportunity to, for those who brought photographs, can I just have a show of hands how many people managed to bring some photographs that, gee Richard, we're going to take off all the prizes. Oh no, Gwen's down there. Okay, a few people have remembered that there was a photographic competition on, and we'll pin those up on these boards later. They're not modesty boards, as someone reminded me, for the telephones or anything like that. Bob has got his trousers on. So, a very big welcome to members, particularly to visitors as well. We hope that you get to see a little bit of what the EMDRC is all about. And special welcome, I'll point him out, Barry Wilton, the Secretary General Manager of the Victiv. Unfortunately, time was against us in receiving this, and I've got to be honest, I had to go back and get a second one because we found a minor problem, and so the engraving hasn't been done. But engraving will take place to formally notate it. It is a world clock. There are instructions. And we would like you to accept this in recognition of your contribution. And we'll talk a little later about the balloon project as an overall event. Congratulations.
Have you got some port at home for us?
That we acknowledge, because without their assistance we would not have been able to achieve the result that we subsequently did. Yes, stop. Peter Ford, VK3TF, for writing the program The Balloon Burst Prediction, which enabled many people to do just that. Predict the burst. Peter, congratulations. They need some radio people in the fishing club, don't they? They've got them? Yeah. They need some more. To Brian Ackley, VK3YNG, who is not a club member but rose to the occasion by writing a splendid program to allow the temperature plotting calculations to be made from the transmitted tones. I understand it was a very comprehensive piece of software. Brian, here tonight? Yeah, Brian, great to see you. I'll drag you up here in a minute. To Graham, VK3NE, who gave tracking reports for courtesy of Tullamarine Radar, and ultimately was able to confirm what the fox hunters knew, that the balloon was at Snobs Creek. To Peter Dawson of the Bureau of Meteorology for the assistance and support that he gave to Joe from the outset. To Professor Morton from Monash University, who came along and so ably assisted on the day and provided the balloon launcher. To Fred Story, VK3JM, his brother, and his brother, whose name escapes me, Roger Stafford, Alan Noble, Bob Fincher, Bob Tate, and Harry, who all worked radios and manned radios and worked tirelessly to accumulate all the responses. On behalf of Joe and the club, I extend a very big thank you to the efforts that you people put in. Of course, I mustn't forget to thank our multimedia personality, without whom we would not have been able to send out so much material to potentially interested groups, only to be left somewhat disillusioned by the lack of response. Andy Blight, BFA, a job well done. It wasn't your fault that they didn't talk to you. To all who participated, we as a club trust you enjoyed yourselves, and trust that it won't be too long before we can announce our next project. We have considered human cargo, but we're not sure. Can Peter, 3TAF, and Brian, 3YNG, and Graham, 3NA. Peter Dawson didn't make it, Joe, did he? No? We'll have to see Peter. And Prof Morton, I think you're down there somewhere, aren't you? Huh? No? Not down. Oh. Can we get someone to deputise for him? No? We don't want any recognition. We appreciate it anyway. Okay, well those three people that Peter, Brian and Graham, if you'd like to come out here, I'll make a little presentation to you so that
Thank you very much. If anybody wants a copy of the software, this is the man you've got to talk to. Well, now perhaps best to direct it through Joe. I know there has been some inquiries to the post. You've got them in stereo now, mate. No worries. That's great. Thank you very much.
Joe, is there anything you wanted to specifically add at this stage, or we?
Walk it next time, Joe.
Right, there is one person whose name eluded me, and I know he's here, and he was shaking his head at me furiously, but I'll mention him. Don ADP, thank you very much for your participation, and seeing the Professor wasn't here, if you'd like to come here, I'll give you his. Send one to the Professor.
He'll love it.
Now there was, well, I don't know, should I let you do the talking?
Well, I just want to...
You want to start? For all of those of you who are members of the Wireless Institute, in your July issue, there is a copy of, there will be an article in more depth on the total event. For those of you who didn't hear about the balloon launch, just very quickly, we set up out here on a day very similar to tonight. Except it wasn't quite as dark. That was about the only difference.
He said that.
And we had a balloon with a radar reflector, a parachute, and precious cargo. And we let the first lot go at 11 o'clock, and unfortunately it just drifted slowly across the oval. So we brought it back and we put a second balloon on it, and the second time away it went rapidly. And we lost it at about 1,000 feet visually, but it headed off through the clouds. And Graham can confirm or deny, but I believe at one stage it was on a common heading with a plane, but there was a fair bit of separation between them.
Well, we have, sir.
Well, we have. Yes, okay, I'll have to get sucked up with the exhaust pipe or something. Anyway, ultimately the balloon reached its elevation, it blew itself apart, and the parachute functioned, and the device came down at Snobs Creek, as I indicated a little earlier. I think as the crow flies, it's about 57 miles from here. Don't ask me kilometres, I can't quite remember. And it came down the big tree. Anyway, I'll let Joe talk about the rest of it, and you can also do the presentation. Right, we've got to find out whose name we've got to write on the currency. There was a $50 reward offered for the safe return of the parcel, and we also didn't bring our parachute back, and the balloon had burst and all that sort of stuff. We will accept the fact that they did bring this bit back, and so therefore they qualified to be the recipients of that, and you'll know that it didn't fall into the hands of people who shouldn't have it. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, I see, this is all part of the plot. All right. Here's our balloon coordinator.
Excuse me, first of all, thank you very much for the Jack Gutcher Award. It's totally unexpected and absolutely terrific. I've sat down for many years and seen people receiving these awards, and I say to myself, well, that's really good. But to actually receive the thing is quite magnificent. I thank you all for it. You'll have to forgive the voice. I've got somewhat of a rather bad cold. I've been bedridden basically for a week. Started back to work yesterday, and I think probably done the wrong thing in doing that. Anyhow, Jeff, I think, has given you most of the information on the balloon flight. I consider it a success. I certainly hope it was. We estimated it got to about 50,000 feet, which is about 16 kilometres, I think, which is fairly high. And according to our results, it's fairly cold as well. It got down to something around about minus 50 degrees centigrade. So I was surprised that the thing survived as long as it did. As a matter of fact, I was surprised, even more surprised and delighted that we got it back. But I would like to say thank you to everyone who participated in it, especially to the people who took a major part in the planning and actual doing of it. And a special thank you to Brian. The software he has written is magnificent. I like to think I can dabble a little bit in software, purely as an amateur. Brian claims no expertise in writing software, but the actual program itself, the source code is probably as thick as that. And thank you for that, Brian, who's not a club member, by the way, which is very good. And thank you to Graham for arranging to track the balloon at Tullamarine. Again, Graham is not a member of the club, I don't think, are you? No, okay, thank you. But that was the sort of thing we could just not have bought. We really could not have done that. That was absolutely terrific, and it really did add to the enjoyment of the whole thing. And of course, to the Met Bureau, Peter Dawson, who isn't here tonight, I would like to thank him. When I mentioned it to him, he said, yes, by all means, come in. I'll give you some balloons and give you some advice and help you in every way I can. And he was most cooperative, as were his superiors. And a big thank you to the Met Bureau for being so good about it all. I have here a copy of probably most people cannot see it, but a copy of the temperature reading from the balloon as it was received. This will be improved upon when I put it through some sort of a filter and see if we can remove some of the noise. But I'm not sure if you can see it very well or not, but the temperature starts off just above 0 degrees centigrade, goes down to about minus 50. And these are all, it's virtually a straight line, which I guess to me indicated a linear rate of ascent down to about minus 50 degrees. After that, it became slightly noisy. As you can see, the temperature gradient is up and down quite a bit. Now, the balloon, we believe, did, probably because of the two balloons, the balloon did tend to float a bit at a given height for a while. That's, to those of you who saw it, as it took off across the paddock with one balloon on it, much to my horror, it tended to be very stable, and it stayed about 6 foot above the ground for quite a long ways, and it eventually just came down very slowly, which indicated that this thing was just about a neutral buoyancy. Now, making an assumption, and the most common theory is that one of the balloons burst, and the other one came down and stayed at some altitude that was dictated by the neutral buoyancy of the single balloon. But eventually it did come down, and Jeff said about 87 kilometers, I think, which is about 100 miles. 60 miles, 60 miles in the old figures, to be covered by the YQN fox hunting team. Now they tell me that they arrived about 10 minutes ahead of the second and third and possibly the fourth team. I'm not sure if there was a fourth team there or not. They weren't terribly sure themselves. But that just shows the accuracy that these people could track this thing. It was quite amazing. That 4 different sets of people arrived at a common point all within 10 minutes of one another. The first team they arrived, they found it, when they looked at it, they saw it in the tree. But none of them were game enough to climb it. So when the second people came along next, one of those actually climbed the tree and pulled the thing down. During the flight, we got reports from VK 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7. We also got a VK4 reporting in, but he was over in VK5. So no, I think VK8. No, I don't want to hear VK0? No, none of those. We got down to Tasmania, which is probably close enough. We're given signal reports of 40 over 9 in Canberra and close to Adelaide. I'm not sure how far from Adelaide that report was, but certainly from Mount Gambier, the report was 20 over. It was also 20 over in Morwell. It was 5 and 9 in Devonport, 5 and 9 in Eas and VK2. There were a total of 766 check-ins, which is quite amazing, it really is. Mind-boggling. Out of those, there was, I've got the figure here somewhere, just over 470, I'm not terribly sure, it was between 470 and 480 individual stations participated in the check-ins. That's a significant number of people involved in one project, and that was greatly gratifying. I phoned the air traffic people at 10:30 on their instructions to receive instructions from them as to whether or not we could launch at 11 o'clock or if we would have to delay it a little bit because of air traffic. And the chief traffic controller down the spoke said, he said, I don't care. He said, I don't know much, but the traffic's going to be around at 11 o'clock. He said, yes, I get worried as well. Plan to sit in next week. He said, I don't know what sort of traffic is going to be around at 11 o'clock. He said, I'm not really concerned about it, just let it go. He said, I cannot guarantee that an airplane's not going to hit it. And I replied to him, I wasn't worried about an airplane hitting the balloon, I was worried about the balloon hitting an airplane. But he said just basically to let the thing go when we were ready. And I told him, yes, we will have it launched at 11 o'clock. We did launch at 11 o'clock, but it came back down again. So we launched it at 11:14. It's a given time for launch. And it was found at 3:15. So the flight time from Go to Woe was 4 hours and 1 minute. Given to the people who covered the balloon, a reward of $50. The YQN team recovered it, so they are due to receive the $50 reward. But they, like everybody, appear to be in Mount Gambier this afternoon. So unfortunately, they cannot be here to accept it. But we do have Steve, who's YGG, BK3YGG, is here on their behalf to accept the check and return the payload. It's Steve, incidentally, who done this particular printout. So that's about as much as I have to say about it. I don't know if there's any questions anyone would like to ask.
What was the final reason for the one balloon not lifting off properly?
I can only assume that it wasn't inflated big enough. I contacted CIG, and they assured me most categorically that what was in the cylinder would have been pure helium. However, he said he would check and get back to me, but he hasn't gotten back to me. So the weight of of our payload was marginally less than the standard radiosonde, and the only assumption that we can come to, because the balloon was of the proper size, is that there just wasn't enough gas in it. That's the only thing we can come to, the only assumption we can come to. Other than that, I really don't know. I'm going to try it.
And in fact, we went with 85 degrees of ventilation.
Oh, you got to have before you go in town. That's
Did you say the balloon actually burst, or just saying?
No, they both did burst. They both did burst. The fox hunting team we found in reckon they were probably only about 15 minutes behind the thing actually coming down. They missed probably about 15 minutes, so no one actually saw it coming down. But no, at some stage the thing must have burst. These balloons are designed to burst at a given altitude with a given amount of gas in them. They expand so much and then they will pop. So if it's done anyway scientifically, it is fairly predictable as to where they will actually burst. To Bruce Patterson with 1T. As I said, the war community were not here this evening to return to officially return the payload, but they have sent Steve YGG in their place to. Well, thank you very much, Dave. For the return of it. It looks really good. It hasn't changed much.
It's blinking at us.
It's still blinking. Yes, it's still blinking. This checking is
ready to go.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure. Yes, sir.
I'd just like to thank the organisation for putting on this competition, and just to give you a little bit of background as to the team, there's 7 of us that work at Martin Communications. It just so happens that all of us are amateurs, and we all got embroiled into this task back there on the 11th because of the challenge it offered us. The team that, as Joe mentioned, is now or on their way to Mount Gambier, fairly intrepid fox hunters. And they've spent most of their time in the last few weeks getting prepared for this Mount Gambier meet. But I'd like to thank everybody who had something to do with it, because I enjoyed it from my base at Hampton Park, and I had a setup there for recording it on the video recorder, which, as Joe said, I'll be further processing once they bring their tracking filters back, so we can actually get a cleaner signal decoded. But I would very much like to encourage competitions like this, because they have a character a little bit different to normal fox hunts, because the fox is mobile and it gives another degree of challenge. And I'd I've got a few suggestions along the lines that the other chaps have mentioned, and that's to perhaps look at a voice synthesised rig that would actually enunciate what temperature and altitude it's at, and also, of course, satisfy the DOC requirements for scheduled identification.
You were supposed to mention that.
But in any case, I'd like to congratulate you for the work you put into this. It was a good signal that I was reading. I think most people that I heard on the system was certainly repeating the same comments. So thank you very much, and I'm proud to accept the cheque. And tonight is actually the first time I've seen this. It was handed back. I think it was in the week following, wasn't it?
No, it was handed back that evening.
Oh, that evening. All right. But the guys did say that. With the $50, it's just about covered their petrol and the Chinese meal they had on the way back.
Well, this is some of it. I would ask if you don't break it, that's all. It's an expanded polystyrene. I think I probably shown you all this before. The flashing lights are courtesy of Hardy. We do expect Hardy does expect them still to be flashing within a year from now. So it's just a little LED flasher with a single C-size battery in it. We're still not terribly certain if that was the extra weight which caused it not to rise. But we're not passing any blame on it. All in all, I would like to once again thank everyone who was involved in it and who participated. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It actually was quite stressful at times, but especially when it didn't take off. I'll never quite forget that. I turned around and saw two hundred faces looking at me all saying, "What are you going to do now, Joe?"
At the end, Joe. Sticking that, Joe. I'm going to find that.
It was extremely good. I will in the coming weeks, possibly month, put this thing together. These are the logs, by the way, the log sheets. As you can see, there are quite a few of them. I'll get these together in some sort of a book form, and with the table of the results and whatever, and I'll get them in a book and perhaps put them in the archives of the club. I hope that they accept it there. I think they may deserve the place. It's been fun, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm not quite sure when, and thanks for your suggestions on the synthesizer. We'll back to you and discuss it with the work you're doing. And that's really good. Thank you, one and all.
You asked to write all the QSL cards out now, Joe? Or?
Oh, that's an interesting point. We had, in fact, the following Monday I went to the club box and stuck the key in the door, went boing! The mail all popped out, it was all concertina in there. The postie must have wondered what on earth was going on with the DRC that week. We've had, in fact, about, I think, 25 or 26 formal requests for the $5 certificate with their money enclosed. Other people have just requested QSL. We were waiting to see what photographs resulted so that we could make it a worthwhile presentation. So don't be daunted by the fact that you haven't received anything just yet, but it's all been duly recorded and it will be forthcoming. I don't know if anybody else has actually gone through the bureau and others as well to process cards. Have you got anything, Glenn? No, not that you're aware of. But we'll take care of that. As it goes, the other thing he forgot to tell you was that many of you saw my car out there, the Commodore, and it had a 10-element Yagi on top of it, and it was duly connected to a receiver and a recorder, and was receiving the tone from the device while it went blip blip blip. Unfortunately, I learned something about desensitising. I've been close to other RF operators around the place, but I also learned about the Irish factor. And the Irish factor is when one person is operating something and someone else comes along and tries to help. Because side one of the tape went through, and 45 minutes later I turned it over. Side two went through, and I was away from the car. Joe came along, saw the tape recorder and stopped, so he turned the tape over again. Unfortunately, there were a lot of other people recording it, and sorry to have it at your expense, but I think we're entitled to one of them. some footage shortly of that some of the people have taken, hence the big screen and the video. Leighton, thank you very much. Please give Leighton a round of applause in advance. For having brought out the video gear. And how much footage have we got altogether? I sort of get a little worried that we might have enough to keep us going long into the night. But perhaps while that's being done, if there's a few people who've got photographs, I've got some pins up here and we've got some boards. I might like to start putting some photographs on board so that our adjudicator can, in the first instance, have a look. And as you will recall, there was also a people's choice. So everyone will be given a little voting slip, and you have the opportunity of voting for one photo or a picture or whatever, and then they'll all be added up, collected from you, added up, and the photograph with the most votes will be the recipient of that particular prize. The prizes that we have for the categories are in fact genuine $20 notes from Kmart, and they're probably worth as much as Australian government currency.
Probably more.
Probably more. But for the various categories that the judge will be looking at, and for the People's Award, they are the prizes. So that's just a little something as an aside. Oh yes, the raffle. The raffle. We could have an independent person to stick their hand in the barrel. Do you want to get Joe back? Is he independent? He's Irish.
He's Irish. I think that's an independent country, isn't it?
All right. Yeah, okay, Joe. Come on, back you come. There are 4 prizes to be awarded tonight, and 3 of them come courtesy of Stafford Fine Leather Goods. Our good friend Roger Stafford, who came last year and offered this fine travel bag, a fine men's leather wallet. Unfortunately, there's no money in it, and the club's not going to put any in it, but it's worth a good amount of money. And there's also a beautiful ladies' wallet as well. And the other alternate prize is it's Directronic, say, with the company that made the initial Viatel systems, and that's one of the ones that was it's brand new, never been used, all that sort of stuff, and JCar and various other people have been selling them, and so that's the 4th, or the first or the 4th, whichever way. We're going to be a little selective in. Or is it mine? Is it? Well, you only held the bucket. I mean, I'm not going to be arguing about this. I don't want to get drawn. Do you want to take it, or do you want to stick it back? Well, what would you like?
We'll do it for next year. F1 pink. I know I got it, but you can look for it.
So, Len's leaving it there. Okay, we'll see what else we can draw out.
You can't reach it. He loves pink, this bloke. Pink ticket for F14.
F14.
14.
Figures 14, okay.
They all tell David, they haven't seen him for years. Good on you, David.
Alright, David, you have a...
Like, I think you might...
Yeah, you have a selection. You have a selection. You have a bag, a wallet, a ladies' wallet, or you take the box of tricks in the wallet. Take the box of tricks. Okay, good. No problems at all. Well done.
He's having troubles here. Oh, pinkish.
What do you got that pink chap?
F21.
F21?
That's right, that's not a corner.
F21.
Charles.
Okay, Charles? Yep. We'll verify that. You take the ladies' wallet? Yep.
There's nothing in it.
Oh, you're cunning. You are. Yeah, no, it's okay.
There are yellow ones in, believe it or not.
They are.
F-34.
Can't say we're not being fair to the pit people.
3-4.
F-34. Ah, went down the back. Well, at least the distributor evenly around the room. Yeah, there's one more to come.
No.
What? No, there's one more to come.
That's fine.
Oh, you have to, which one are you going to take?
Whatever.
Whatever's left. Ah, there's a method in his madness. What would you like? You have a choice of a match ball or a trouble bag? You take the ball? Alright. Then gets the trouble bag.
Well, I got a good idea down here.
Would you like to re-raffle it?
I like to raffle this.
One for $1.
It's all for a good cause. I dare say I got a week's work left, so I don't have to carry my lunch home back to work anymore. What I'm offered.
Are you going to raffle it now?
Yeah, why not?
Sorry.
Right, who's going to start it off? What a miserable lot.
We'd like to see you take it home and take your lunch in it.
Yeah, I think I do.
We'll let us do a gift to Snow and she can go and get the supper in it.
Oh, now you blokes be coming back every week instead of every month.
That's yours, Len.
Good night, Len.
Thanks, Len. Yes, yeah, very good. Okay, how many people have got photographs that they would like to bring up here, and we can start pinning them onto the board. People might like to stand and
is that part of the balloon that secretary on the board?
This bit? Yeah. No, that was that's part of a normal radio song. That's the barometric reading device. It's just a cavity and the original transmitter. We of course put a 2-meter transmitter on. There was actually a Clayton's beacon. The beacon you're having when you're not having a beacon. It was under dock regulations. If it transmits for longer than 10 minutes, it must have a identification, and they wanted $34. And we didn't reckon 4 hours for $34 was very good value for money. So that's why they knew it was there, but that was all right. Yeah, they couldn't say. There's Joe. Yeah, who wants to?
Program we put it out, but it didn't work.
Pass on around. Perhaps we can have a little bit of footage for a few minutes, and I don't know how much you've got in any particular